There's a Bluey episode almost no one remembers. Or maybe they choose not to. It's called The Girl Behind the Glass. Some say it aired once late at night and then disappeared forever. No records. Only rumors and those who still remember what they saw. It started like any normal day. Bluey and Bingo were playing inside their house. The weather was cloudy. Gray light filled the rooms. Everything looked a little washed out. Bingo suggested a new game. Let's play mirror match. She pointed to the large window facing the backyard. You copy me and I copy you. They both giggled and pressed their noses against the glass. At first it was innocent fun. They raised their arms, twirled around, made silly faces. The reflections followed just as they should, but then something shifted. Bluey raised her right arm. Bingo raised her left like a mirror would. But the Bingo in the window didn't move. It just stood still, frozen. Bluey laughed nervously, thinking it was part of the game. She waved again. The Bingo in the glass tilted its head, not copying, just different. The real Bingo tugged at Bluey's paw. I'm tired, let's play something else. She skipped away from the window. Bluey stayed, staring at the frozen reflection. Something about the eyes. They were too wide. The smile stretched just a little too much. That night things got worse. Bluey woke to tapping, soft rhythmic taps against the glass. She sat up in bed. The backyard window was across the room, barely visible in the moonlight. But she saw her Bingo, standing outside, pressing her face against the glass. Only it wasn't Bingo. The real Bingo was asleep, tucked safely in bed. Bluey whispered, afraid to make a sound. The figure outside smiled. It wasn't a kind smile, it was stretched. Wrong. Slowly, it lifted its hand and tapped once more against the glass. In the morning, Bluey told her parents. They smiled nervously and said she must have had a bad dream. They pulled the curtains tighter, locked the windows. But every night Bluey heard it, the tapping. And every night if she dared to look, there she was. The other Bingo, moving on her own, scraping her hands down the glass, mouthing silent words Bluey couldn't understand. Sometimes she would press her palm flat against the window. Sometimes she would just stand and tilt her head, watching. The last night Bluey woke not to tapping but to breathing, slow, wet, heavy. The window was open, curtains fluttered against the cold air. Bluey didn't want to look, but something inside her did. She turned her head ever so slowly. And there, sitting at the end of her bed, was Bingo, or what looked like Bingo. The real Bingo slept soundly, back turned to the horror. The thing at the end of the bed smiled, and in the softest, sweetest voice it whispered, "Your turn to follow me now." The screen faded to black. No ending scene, no music, no laughter. Just the long, soft sound of something dragging across glass. Then, silence. There's a Bluey episode almost no one talks about. Not because it's forgotten, but because those who have seen it wish they could forget. It's called The Closet Guest. And according to rumors, it aired only once in the middle of the night, before vanishing completely. No official records, only fragments, and those who still remember what they saw. It started normally the way any Bluey episode would. Bluey and Bingo were laughing, throwing toys around their room. The golden light of sunset spilled lazily across the walls. But the camera lingered, just a little too long. On the corners where the light didn't reach, on the closet, on the door that wasn't fully shut. At one point Bingo joked, "Let's play hide and seek, I'll hide someone in the closet." She grabbed an old stuffed toy, tossed it inside and closed the door. When they finished playing, the closet door was open again, the toy was gone, and something subtle, had changed. Later that night Bluey woke up. A soft, slow creak echoed through the room. She turned her head, heart pounding a little faster. The closet door was moving, opening wider, by itself. Bluey told herself it was just the wind, pulled the blanket over her head, and tried to pretend she hadn't seen it. The next morning she told Bingo. Bingo just laughed and said, "Maybe someone lives there now." All day Bluey felt it, that weight, that pressure, the feeling that something, or someone, was watching her. From the hallway, from the shadows, from the closet. She asked her parents if there could be a draft. Bandit smiled, ruffled her ears and said, "Old house, sweetheart. Houses creak, that's all." But that night the noises grew louder. Bluey woke again, this time to breathing, deep, slow. Wrong. It wasn't Bingo, it wasn't Mom or Dad. It came from the closet. The door was wide open now, and deep in the darkness, something caught the light. Two small glinting dots, like eyes. Too low to belong to an adult, too high to be a toy. Bluey froze under her blanket, listened. The breathing grew closer, soft footsteps across the floor. A pause, and then a voice, strange, a little too high, a little too familiar. It whispered, "Don't be afraid, let's play." In the morning, Bluey tried to tell her parents. They just smiled too tightly and said it must have been a bad dream. No one mentioned it again. But over the next few days, Bluey changed. She spoke less, smiled less, stopped leaving her room unless she was called. And every time she sat down, her eyes, wide and unblinking, and stayed locked onto the closet door. In the last part of the episode, the family sat around the breakfast table. Normal conversation, normal laughter. But the camera ignored them. It pushed closer to Bluey. She sat perfectly still, her food untouched, her gaze empty. And just behind her at the very end of the hallway, the closet door. And for a fraction of a second, a tall crooked shadow slipped across it. The final scene showed Bluey's bedroom again. Nighttime, silent. Bingo slept peacefully. But Bluey sat across from the open closet staring deep into the void. And she whispered, "Now it's my turn to hide." The camera pulled back, slowly. The window behind them showed the dark street outside, still, abandoned. No movement, no sound. Just the faint, almost imperceptible creak of a door opening wider. And then, blackness, total silence.